Hey guys, Nick here and welcome back to GamerTube, and welcome back to our Little Nightmares character concept series. So in today's video, we'll be looking into the character, the Gravedigger. So we'll be going into their location, their game mechanics, and all that stuff as well. With these character concepts, they're pretty much just fun ideas that we can express and show a new potential character as well. So this could be anything like a book or a game or even a movie. It doesn't really have to be tied to a DLC or a next potential game as well. Also, once again, a big thank you to Jayfer over on Twitter for designing the character, the Gravedigger. And lastly, before we get into today's video, if you could please consider leaving a like, commenting, and subscribing, as it helps out a lot and is greatly appreciated. Alrighty, let's get into the Gravedigger character. So in the beginning, we start off in complete darkness. As the player tries to figure out where they are, they begin to move side to side until they hear a loud crash. We then see the main character crawl out of a little coffin. As they look around, they appear to be in an old looking shed. When they look behind them, they can see a number of other little coffins stacked up in a pile. As they look around, they see the front door of the shed. The player would have to push and drag some of the little coffins towards the door so they could climb up and reach the doorknob. Once they've opened the door, then they find themselves in the main location, the cemetery. A creepy looking area filled with tombstones and graves as far as the eye can see. The player needs to find a way out of the cemetery quickly before they come across any dangerous characters. The child doesn't remember how they got into the coffin in the first place. All they can seem to remember is a strange place filled with other children and a large disturbing figure. Then before they knew it, they ended up in the shed to the cemetery. As they walk through the cemetery, passing all the gravestones, they come across some strange looking animals that they'd never seen before. When they get closer, they see a murder of crows perched up on the gravestones staring in their direction. The feathered creatures stare with their cold, empty eyes as the player carefully walks past, trying not to disturb these sinister looking creatures. The player takes another step forward when all of a sudden all the crows take off in a panic. The child stands still and guards their head as a bunch of feathers float down to the floor near their feet. Behind the child stands a large shadowy figure. As this shadowy character gets closer, it's revealed to be the Gravedigger. The Gravedigger is a slender, disturbing looking character with an unnerving looking mouth filled with sharp teeth. Along with his shovel, he's also carrying on his back what looks to be a large bag filled with the poor souls that he needs to bury. Without hesitation, the Gravedigger slams down his shovel in the player's direction. The child jumps out of the way as the shovel slams heavily on the ground. In this gameplay segment, the player would have to run through the cemetery whilst dodging the attacks from this vicious undertaker. As the Gravedigger slams down his shovel, the player can also take cover behind some of the gravestones. The shovel would smash the gravestone to bits, and this would give you a chance to run further away. It appears that the Gravedigger is the one who is responsible for burying all the little coffins that were in the shed. The Gravedigger is trying to capture the player and put them back in their little coffin and bury them as they were instructed to do so. Whilst frantically running away, the child falls into an open grave. When they land at the bottom, they quickly bury themselves in a light layer of dirt. The Gravedigger goes to investigate but can't see any sign of them. After a short while, the disturbing undertaker walks away to go continue their terrible task at hand. The player then gets out of the dirt and starts to climb the side of the grave by holding on to all the roots in the ground. As they go to grab another root, they immediately realise that it isn't a root at all. Out of the wall of dirt emerges a number of little skeleton hands. Their bony hands try to grab the player and keep them down in this pit. As the child climbs up, they need to dodge these creepy skeleton hands that burst out of the wall and try to grab them. Once the player has finally climbed out of the grave, they continue looking around for a way out of the cemetery. As the child roams the cemetery, they can see the Gravedigger in the distance. The child hides behind a gravestone as they watch the disturbing undertaker do his work. The Gravedigger is standing over an open grave as he places the small coffins in the pit. Then, all of a sudden, the Gravedigger's mouth creepily unhinges and grows wider as a stream of dirt pours from his mouth and into the grave. Whilst the child is watching this disturbing act, they see further in the distance the back gate to the cemetery. It's a secure gate with not a lot of room to squeeze through. Also hanging off the gate latch appears to be a large padlock locking the gate tight. The child decides to continue onward towards the gate and try to make their escape. Whilst on their way towards the cemetery gate, the child would have to traverse over a number of obstacles and puzzles. For instance, they would have to find a way to get across open graves by making bridges out of wood, or either tipping over gravestones to make ledges so they can climb up them and access out of reach areas. As they get close towards the gate, they come across the tool shed. A small looking shed filled with multiple shovels and other tools. The walls of the shed are covered in shelves, and on the top shelf hangs a set of keys. The player then discovers these are the keys to unlock the back gate to the cemetery. The child decides to climb up to the top shelf, and just as they do, a large shovel stabs through the side of the shed, almost hitting the player. In this frantic gameplay segment, the player needs to dodge all the incoming shovel attacks whilst also using the shovels as a platform to get higher and higher towards the keys on the shelf. It appears that the gravedigger is using 2 shovels to stab through the wall in an attempt to try and hurt the player. As one shovel stabs through the wall and the other one leaves, you have to use them as ledges to get up. The gravedigger is furiously trying to attack you with these shovels, but little does he know, he's actually aiding you to get up higher and higher. When you reach the top shelf, you make one last jump for the keys as one of the shovels stabs through the wall. The child narrowly dodges it and uses the shovel as one last platform to quickly jump and grab the keys. As they quickly get back down, they run out of the shed and make a break for the gate. The gravedigger chases them through the cemetery and tries to catch them before they can escape. As the child reaches the gate, they quickly jump up and unlock the padlock. Once the child opens the gate and squeezes through, they quickly close it again and use the padlock to lock up the gate from the other side. The gravedigger on the other side of the gate stares at the player. As the child turns around to walk further into the Pale City, they then hear the sound of metal bending and breaking. The gravedigger has furiously broken through the gate and starts to charge towards the player. The child runs towards an abandoned house across the street to try and get away from this deranged undertaker. As the child runs through the door, the gravedigger smashes through the door behind them. The child quickly hides behind a wall as the gravedigger searches for them. The gravedigger's jaw creepily unhinges again as a mass of deadly leeches pour out of his mouth. In this hide-and-seek gameplay sequence, the player would have to sneak past and hide from the gravedigger, whilst also trying to dodge all the disgusting leeches that are squirming around on the floor. Once the child has dodged all the leeches and successfully hidden from the gravedigger, they then find themselves upstairs. They find themselves a room and they find a window that they can escape through. Just as they climb out the window, the gravedigger finds them. The gravedigger charges towards the child, but at the last second, the player leaps out the window and lands in a soft pile of dirt. As the camera zooms out, we see that the child has landed in a moving delivery truck of soft soil and dirt. Sitting in this big pile of dirt, the child stares at the gravedigger peering out the window as the truck takes them far away from the dangers of this cemetery and the clutches of the gravedigger. Alrighty guys, that's all we have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider leaving a like, commenting and subscribing, as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. As always guys, make sure you comment down below what you thought of the gravedigger and what other characters you'd like to see going forward. But anyway guys, until the next video, I'll catch you later. Bye.